Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome aboard this episode of Interesting Ltd. I'm your captain, Alex Bell, and I'm joined on the flight deck today by First Officers Manu and Jack Chambers. The topic ahead looks good, although we may be experiencing some spicier takes during Manu's section, so please do keep your headphones securely fastened at all times. On behalf of everyone here, I'd like to thank you for choosing Lunchbox MV, and we hope you have a pleasant listen. Cabin crew for FD2, thank you.
Hello and welcome to Lunchbox MV, and we're doing travel food today.
Yes, I know.
Food on the move.
Well, actually, the budget is stretched to a private jet, which you may be able to hear in the background.
Yeah, that's definitely not our horrible janky air conditioning system because it's such a hot day today.
Oh my god.
I've got lots on plane food.
Yes, I've got lots on train food.
And I've got lots on boat food.
Perfect.
Woo.
Manu, why don't you
Okay,
kick us off and
so
tell us
I-
that cavemen have been in
I
packing
went deep,
pack lunches for...
deep. Well, I was thinking about just traveling and food in general, and then
Yes.
realised that we were driven to travel by food.
That's so
As a
true.
species, this is why we went anywhere.
Oh, yeah.
So until we settled down, or kind of semi-settled down as a human species, and began our transition into farming, which is about 15,000 years ago. So they're like evidence of temporary cave dwellings in the Fertile Crescent. So that's when we kind of like stayed for a little bit, ate some stuff, and then realised actually no, we really do need to move on.
Oh,
with
like
food.
Clacking Lane Services.
Yes, exactly.
So
but
little
in
chef.
a clinic. We moved for food. So hunter-gatherers moved for seasonal plants and grazing animals. They followed animals around.
Follow the herd.
Exactly. And even the animals that they domesticated quite early on, so say dogs and pigs, they took those animals with them. So in that sense, all food
All food
was
is travel food.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
so that's cool. But the pigs, it's quite binary. You can't eat some of the pig and have it carry on with you. Right?
Well,
It'd be great if we bred an animal that you could
No,
eat some
there
of.
are. I mean, some communities do that with cattle, I think.
Yeah, they'll
So
sip a little bit of their blood
Yeah.
to keep them going.
Oh, that's
Which
cool. I was going to say
replicates
they didn't
itself.
just take a rib.
No,
no.
That
That's
would be
true.
like being on an edible motorbike
Yes.
that you can eat chunks of.
I like how your mind thinks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember reading, it was quite an interesting take for, I think it was Noah Yuval Harari, who wrote Sapiens, and he was like, in a way, wheat domesticated us because wheat used to like grow in the fields and be a bit more wild and sporadic and would be killed by disease, and then it was like, tell you what, let's make ourselves really delicious and reliable for humans to grow, and then they'll stay here and grow more of us,
Yeah.
and then when more and more generations, I mean obviously it sort of works
Isn't
both
this like
ways.
the famous cats?
I was saying, I'm
Yeah.
looking at my cat right now, who is lying on the floor living the life of luxury while I'm podcasting hard away to pay for the mortgage. So,
And pay for his cat food.
Best and worst travelling foods, in your opinions? Big question.
I remember my family would deliberately get the slightly more expensive and slower Brittany ferries to France
Yeah.
on holiday rather than the P&O ferries because their food was better because it was French.
oh,
So P&O ferries would do like, you know, full English, beans on toast, because we were usually getting it at like 7 a.m. And then Brittany ferries would be like, putty little glass of yogurt with your, you know, and, fresh croissants.
I
They're
made
really
that
good,
decision
yeah.
because
No,
this is the problem I have with traveling is we put up with any kind of journey often, like skimp so much money on an airline ticket because it's a bit cheaper.
Yeah.
I'll just put up with the 12 hours of hell it takes to get there. And I'm like, you're only there for 5 days. So
Yeah.
like 20% of the time,
20% of your-
is that worth it?
Are we going to talk about airport beers?
Oh, we could.
It's
you
such
know
a
what?
weird concept that wherever you are, if you're about to start your holiday, whatever time of day, a beer is basically
Oh.
socially
Is
mandatory.
this an English thing?
I think it
Yeah,
must
it
be.
is.
Is it just
yeah.
okay?
I mean, even because the head of Ryanair, of all people, is
Irish.
trying to ban it because he's like, oh, why are all our customers completely drunk
leathered.
at like 9 o'clock in the morning on our flights, causing disruption?
I've never done it.
Yeah, I've known a lot of people to miss flights
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
because of the airport beers. I accidentally lit up a cigarette in the middle of an airport because of
Because you were drunk.
I completely forgot. And my partner at the time was looking at me like, something's wrong here. I don't know what it is. And he was like, shit, Manu.
Strong with these pints.
I think my favourite meal in life is
Oh, wow. This is
the
big.
airport spoons breakfast.
Ooh.
So in the UK, there's a Wetherspoons in most major airports,
Uh-huh.
and it's not. I mean, the food is great. Like I love a spoons breakfast, but it's more the context. So you're going on holiday,
Yeah.
so you're excited about that. You're usually going away with friends and people you like.
Yeah, yeah.
You're on a real like social high because everyone's turned up to the airport.
Yeah.
You've just got through the difficult, stressful bit. Like everyone's made it through
that's
security.
true.
You've all got tickets.
Baggage is-
Everyone relaxes. You're all stuck there. No one's like going anywhere. No one's going to
point.
leave. No one's late.
No one's
like
gonna
you're
Irish
joining up.
exit.
Everyone has loads of fun. Someone's bought a newspaper.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like good purgatory. You're just like we're stuck here and it's great. So
Good
like let's go and
purgatory.
have a great week. And then there's a contrast of coming back where everyone's exhausted,
Yeah.
flight's delayed. You're stuck in a KFC in a Spanish airport.
I was looking at the best and worst traveling foods, kind of like legally speaking.
Oh yeah,
Surströmming, which
yeah,
we've
we've tried
eaten,
that.
Oh yeah.
not allowed on planes.
Listen
Not
to
just
the-
because it smells horrendous, but because it's a pressurized
It
can.
is pressurized. Do you remember
Yeah,
it? Like it
that
hissed when
can
we opened it,
explode.
like a Horcrux.
Exactly, it was terrifying. Durian,
Oh yeah.
classically not allowed.
That really
Why?
smelly fruit
It's
from
smelly.
Southeast
very,
Asia.
very smelly. So it's a tropical Southeast Asian fruit, which is custardy, and I've tried it. It is kind of delicious, but
Sorry,
also
it's in custody.
It will
It's
it will land you in
that
custody
bad.
because it's illegal.
so it's quite sweet, quite desserty, but it smells like rotting garbage.
Yeah, there's one in our freezer in the office.
What still?
Yeah.
Why?
Wow.
It was a pilot for another podcast that we tried at QI.
Oh, the one where you were doing like disgusting foods.
Yes, yeah, that was
I
the
remember.
challenge. Find the most disgusting thing in London and bring it to me. It's 3 years later, still in the freezer.
Why? I'm so glad I'm producing this podcast and not that one. All right, let's crack into our first lunchbox, and this week that is mine.
Great.
And I've brought a selection of in-flight meals for you.
Oh, great. Would you like the chicken or the beef?
Or the beef. Yeah. First dish is fried chicken and scrambled eggs.
Oh, look at that. It's delicious.
Second dish is this hope you think beautifully presented
It's
smorgasbord featuring beef and asparagus and pickles. And then for dessert, Zwieback, which is a kind of dessert toast with peaches and cream.
Whipped cream. Squirty cream, my favourite. I mean, I've never been on a flight that served this selection.
No, none of us have, because these are all meals from the golden age of airline cuisine. So I want to take you through the history of food in the air
Sure, yeah.
and use it to prove why airlines definitively hate us.
okay. Shit.
So let's start right at the beginning with the first ever plain meal. Do you want to guess when that was?
19... The same year the Wright brothers flew.
I love the idea that the Wright brothers did a quick in-service meal, like in like the 17-second flight. They were just like quickly down with the trolley. Come on, come on. The first in-flight meal was 1919.
Oh.
It was served
you
on
were
a
close.
flight from London to Paris, so we could have
Okay.
caught it. A company called Handley Page Transport, and they had a modified World War I bomber
Oh.
that was sort of repurposed for passenger
Sick.
use.
So they put the food in the bomb compartment.
Yeah. It cost 3 shillings. It was a lunchbox, a literal lunchbox
Oh.
with just a sandwich and some fruits. There might have been some chocolate, and apparently it was dished out by quote unquote cabin boys.
Oh, I like
that
it.
sounds
Bring it
So it
unnecessary.
was
back.
Sexy,
hot. Yeah. But actually, I think it was quite unusual in the early days to have dedicated flight attendants because it used to be that the co-pilots would just come out of the cockpit and like
Really?
hand out picnic baskets,
Aw.
which I think is a bit worrying.
Yeah.
As
I'd be
long as
like,
it's not both of them at the same
Yeah.
time.
yeah.
Wait,
and
I
then-
thought
and
you
then
were
it's like,
watching the plane.
Yeah. Why is the coffee pouring sideways?
I was going to say, I read in early planes, they also, because they didn't have the pressurized cabins, so everyone had to wear those masks as well. Which is
Well, right from the start,
Yeah,
the
they're
mask
pretty
also makes it harder to eat as
Yeah, I
well.
was gonna
Yeah, well,
say.
you could slurp up a milkshake, couldn't you, through the tube?
They could just put oxygen and coffee through the
Fuel.
same tube.
The Huel Airlines. Yeah.
So that was the first meal. The first hot meal, it was in 1928, 29th of April, from Berlin to
Oh.
Paris.
So it took 9 years to get the heating technology.
Lufthansa, but it says it was an insulated bottle system. So I think they mostly heated it on the ground and then sort of
Yeah.
stuffed it into thermos tubes
Oh, right.
or some kind of insulated thing. But it says one of the first hot meals available was scrambled eggs and fried chicken, which you could do
Nice.
worse. You
I was
know,
gonna say,
that's
this
a nice
looks
combo.
amazing.
Very
Yeah.
American.
Yeah,
Lovely.
very American. Then in 1936 was the first kind of galley kitchen on a plane was United Airlines became the first airline to do this. And this is because in 1933 they had bought a brand new fleet of planes for a huge amount of money in those days, $3.5 million. They
Ooh.
spent all this on 60 new Boeing 247s, nice and shiny and new. They went into service in 1933, and then a few months later Douglas DC-3 came out, which was a bit bigger and a bit faster, and all their competitors bought that instead.
no.
So they were like, shit, we just spent all these money on these brand new planes. We can't scrap them, but they're not quite as good as all our
Yeah,
competitors.
it's a bit like investing in Betamax and then VHS comes out.
Exactly. Yeah. So they had to find an edge, and they decided to lean into the service on board. So they hired a guy called Donald F. McGarrell, who was the world's first airline cuisine executive consultant. And he said, well, build a kitchen at, I think it was Oakland Airport. And he hired chefs from Switzerland and Austria and France. And like they created proper menus and tried to kind of do proper gourmet food. And this is when they also started thinking about how to optimize food for eating in the sky, you know, with pressure and everything, which I guess we'll talk about later.
Yeah, of course, the science behind it.
Yeah.
I still think it's crazy that you're sort of expected to deliver meals for the people on board your plane if it's more than like 2 hours, right? To the
Well,
price
well,
of
let's
the-
talk about this.
Yeah,
We're now at
okay,
the end of the
yeah.
golden age of food,
Sure.
but there's a really interesting story behind it.
Great.
So I'm glad you asked.
Set you up nicely.
So the 1950s, I would say, was when you had amazing meals. And this was actually all down mainly to regulation. So from the 1930s, the aviation industry in a lot of countries around the world was quite heavily regulated, partly because when steam had come around before, there'd been a lot of instability, a lot of boom and busts, and like price wars, because it was such a big opportunity for a new industry. So there was an organization called the International Air Transport Association.
Oh, IATA.
IATA.
They
which-
still
which-
do the codes, don't they?
The what?
Oh yeah,
Like
the
London
airport-
Heathrow is
yeah.
LHR. That's an
Yes,
IATA
so they
code.
run everything around the world basically. So this organization, they fixed the routes that airlines could offer and the fares, and there was so little to differentiate between the companies, and so actually the in-flight service became the primary battleground for getting the edge for decades. So the quality of the food basically shot up. A few examples of this. TWA coach passenger service in the early 1970s could expect a starter of Dungeness crab, harvest salad with blue cheese, a choice of charbroiled filet mignon with Bordelais sauce, veal scallopini with fettuccine alfredo, or roast pork loin in a cherry sauce.
I don't even know what half those foods are. But it was expensive as shit though.
was,
When
it was.
my family came over from Mauritius, a lot of families did this. Like you had to save up a crazy amount of money, but also you dressed up because you knew it was fancy.
Dressed to
It was
fly.
an
So
event.
no, honestly, it was like Sunday style outfits. Everyone looked amazing.
Do
You
you
see,
not still?
Yes.
But you're absolutely right. It was luxury. And then when economy class arrived in about 1958, the IATA felt that it was a real threat to the established order because like the ideal business is only the richest people in the world paying loads and loads of money for your
got all
stuff.
the money.
So like they were trying to contain it. They had this conference in Paris in 1957 in which they standardized the rules for a bare bones economy service.
Cool.
They weren't allowed to serve alcohol, only tea, coffee, mineral water.
And Ryanair was born.
Yeah, exactly. Sandwiches as well. And actually sandwiches were a bit of a sticking point.
Oh, yeah.
So this is what I want to talk about next, which was the sandwich wars. They said basically you have to serve a sandwich, but really no more than a sandwich.
Okay.
But no one really defined what a sandwich was.
This
okay,
old chestnut.
Exactly. So Americans were all just serving like cellophane wrapped package sandwiches, pretty standard. The European airlines like KLM and Air France started exploiting this loophole, and they started constructing quite elaborate meals on a slice of bread.
Right.
So what we have in front of us today is my quite poor imitation of the Scandinavian Airlines smorgasbord, which they would serve free to passengers. They have 5 slices of ox tongue, a lettuce heart, asparagus, and sliced carrots on a single slice of bread.
Ooh.
That counts as a sandwich.
Swiss Air provided passengers with an assortment of 12 dainty appetizer sandwiches, followed by primary sandwich, followed by 2 dessert sandwiches. So you can see how they're kind of taking the piss.
I love it.
This obviously upset the American Airlines. They were like, well, we're supposed to be doing sandwiches. So they complained to the IATA.
Mom, they're
Pretty
not
much,
making
yeah.
sandwiches in Europe.
And
I
then-
want those.
And then there was a series of like public escalation. Like the Scandinavian Airlines put out these adverts saying, on our planes, you won't find rubbery indigestibles wrapped in cellophane. And then they like, where Swiss Air said that every man is entitled to his concept of a sandwich and we have ours. So it got a little bit spicy.
Fittingly, some beef.
There was beef. There was
very
beef between the
nice.
airlines. Yeah. They had to have a special meeting in London, the IATA,
The peace summit.
Was it catered?
define the sandwich in the most miserable terms they could.
Oh no.
Which was as a cold, simple, unadorned, and inexpensive item consisting of a substantial and visible chunk of bread. containing nothing normally regarded as expensive or luxurious, such as smoked salmon, oysters, caviar, lobster, game, asparagus, pâté de foie gras, and no overgenerous or lavish helpings which affect the monetary value of the unit.
That's amazing.
Wow.
What,
So-
I imagine coming up with a list of like things deemed expensive.
Well, too nice. Like this
Well,
is
too
this is
nice,
why
yeah.
like definitively airlines are not on your side. Like
yeah.
they had a special meeting and spent hundreds of thousands of dollars probably flying around the world to me to be like, how do we make our sandwiches shit enough for economy?
And now I suppose a lot of them are going the other way and trying to cut costs and make sure you pay for your own sandwiches.
Well,
and
that's
stuff,
because
right?
the industry was massively deregulated in about
Ah,
1978. They were free to compete on like price and routes and everything like that. And actually, the food was the first thing to go.
Yeah, no, I was reading about this post-deregulation period for airlines, and there's a famous story of in the 1980s, the CEO of American Airlines, Robert Crandall, heard that people didn't really like the olives in the first class salad very much. And he was like, let's take those away. And by removing like basically a single olive from each salad, he saved the company about 40 grand a year, which today is about 130,000
Wild.
pounds.
My God, when you think about the margins you're
I
working with, that's
know.
crazy.
I always hear
Genius.
this story and I'm like, that just proves how many flights.
Yeah, that's
that,
what I mean. Like they're working with such huge figures.
Yeah, so that has probably
It's
actually
still cool,
saved them
though.
like a third of a billion.
At the end of the day, we got a good QI fact out of it, and that's all that matters because it sounds interesting.
We've been doing all that for years.
I love the idea of checking what people are leaving behind, because this is still something that
Yes, that's
airlines do. They'll count basically all of the leftovers after a flight. They'll see which are the favorite meals and then just like get rid of the
That's
ones
really
that
clever
have been,
data analysis. Another example, more recently in the 2010s, Northwest Airline saved $500,000 a year by slicing the limes they put in the drinks into 16ths rather than tenths.
Oh,
That's
that is-
great, right?
Yeah, again, that's a much better version of that. Or it's like an
Who's-
extension.
No, you
of that.
never
Who
noticed
is
that.
doing that
Exactly.
slicing though? Because I can barely slice
Or
a
probably a
lime.
robot,
Okay,
actually,
that's
yeah.
fine.
The robot
Most
cost
of them
$500,000 though.
What's the deal with plane food?
I was waiting for somebody to ask this.
So it's a trope associated with Jerry Seinfeld, the 1990s. I mean, he's still alive, but he was a stand-up comedian who was in America. But yeah, apparently he never actually said those specific lines. He would talk about airline food in his set, and then he did an SNL skit a bit later where he was sort of self-mockingly doing, and it was, but yeah, he never actually said it. And I had heard this trope all the time. And anyway, I don't know what the punchline
Well,
was.
Tom, actually, I've got the answer because
do you?
I think I wrote this for a QI book ages ago.
Oh,
but
nice.
obviously, I went and found out what actually is the deal with airplane food. Why does it taste different and weird? I mean, the answer is kind of obvious, to be honest. It's mostly about the air in the cabin. The first thing is that cabins are not very humid.
Okay. Quite
The
dry.
humidity drops to about 12%, which is drier than most deserts.
No.
I think they're a bit better these days, but like definitely when I started flying when I was younger, like cabin air was pretty, like it got pretty bad. So it's low humidity and also low pressure, of course, and that leads to less saliva flowing around inside you. It dries out your nasal passages, and that means that you have a lower sensitivity to sweet and salty flavors, about 30% less. We found
Wow,
out.
that's a big deal.
mad.
Yeah, and the bulk of how we perceive taste is
It's through
via
those
smell.
things,
It's via
yeah.
these kind of things. You can kind of compare it to having a bad cold.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other interesting variable is the noise. So the
Yeah.
noise in the cabin, can reach 85 decibels. And there was research done by food scientists at Cornell University in 2015. Two scientists called Kimberly Yan and Robin Dando, a cross-modal role for audition in taste perception. Great read.
I'm going to listen to the audiobook.
Yeah. And they found that the noisier the environment, the more your sweet and salty perception is dulled.
Wow.
Really weird. Yeah.
That's like that gastrophysics though.
That's exactly. Well,
Always bring
Charles
up.
Spence wrote a lot about airplane food. One of the things he points out is how that noise level does something really weird to your umami taste receptors.
Yeah.
It boosts them, which is why
Whoa.
apparently people enjoy foods like tomato juice or like any kind of
Okay.
really savory thing. Super interesting.
Yeah.
Lufthansa actually did a survey on some of their passengers and said they drank tomato juice in plane journeys, but they never drink it on the ground.
Elsewhere. Wow.
Speaking of preferences, there was a period of time when there wasn't very much plane food available. If you can imagine when that might have been.
Oh, COVID.
COVID during the pandemic, all the flights were grounded. Obviously, you'd imagine it's probably a bad time to be in the airline food business. But Thai Airways in April 2020, they were nearly going bankrupt.
Yeah.
But they started selling their in-flight meal boxes for delivery.
That's genius.
And by September, they'd converted the cafeteria at its headquarters into like an airline-themed restaurant and decorated it with like airline seats and like cabin crew were there to like the wait when
Played
you.
the 85 decibel hum. on.
Yeah. Okay, from planes to trains, let's crack into our second lunchbox, and that is Jack's.
Yes, I'm very excited to deliver to you the
Is it going to be a replacement bus lunchbox?
I have brought you a ham sandwich wrapped in cling film.
Oh.
Rather squished and stale, the British rail sandwich, to represent the very British concept of disappointment.
That's giving Ron Weasley on the Hogwarts Express.
I think this should be in a museum because this kind of sums up
It looks like it's been in a museum.
for hundreds of years, because I think this represents a key part of what it means to be British. So this is basically a sort of British in-joke from most of the 20th century. So when railways first started being built in the UK, they were all private companies and they were all competing with each other. In 1948, they decided to nationalise the railways, to have them all under one umbrella, make it much easier to manage. And so they created British Rail. And they had to provide catering. So one thing they provided was sandwiches. Incredibly disappointing and stale and boring sandwiches.
And we're talking like triangles of processed bread with
triangles
filling.
of processed bread
wrapped
wrapped
in
in
cling
cling
film.
film. There was much mockery. The Goon Show, which was a famous radio comedy show in the 1950s. It had an episode called The Collapse of the British Rail Sandwich System. Spike Milligan himself had a gag, missing Van Gogh ear found in British Rail sandwich. Douglas Adams posited that British Rail washed and repackaged their sandwiches in cling film for reuse the next day. Bill Bryson wrote, I can remember when you couldn't buy a British Rail sandwich without wondering if this was your last act before a long period on a life support machine. Like, people go in hard.
We
but
love to hate the sandwiches. It's
Exactly.
very British, like having a go at a British service.
Yeah.
And in fact, Charles Dickens, even before the railways were nationalised, he wrote a series of railway stories in 1866 in serial form. One of the stories features a woman who's just come back from the continent and was horrified to hear that the French actually had delicious food and like crispy baguettes and charcuterie. And she preferred the good old-fashioned British disappointing sandwiches.
I read some account of a politician somewhere when they went to some kind of European EU summit or G7 summit, and there was a train put on where sort of every country had a carriage.
Cool.
And yeah, apparently the French had a sort of amazing like kind of meal set on, and the Germans had a sort of incredible stuff, and then the British just had shit sandwiches and like really flying the flag.
I think it's our national sport.
Yeah.
Although, this is also, we talked about in the sandwich episode, this is before M&S revolutionised. And I do think,
Yes.
I think I said on the day, we have the best sandwiches in the world now.
We do, yeah.
So we've come on a long way. And, you know, this is kind of a...
The trains aren't so good. But
No, true. So then in the 70s, they started competing with short haul flights.
Yeah.
So they were sort of ramping up, especially the first class menu. The Intercity 125, my favourite British rolling stock,
Don't get him started.
had a dining car as well as a buffet service. So you get the trolley that goes down,
Yeah.
and some places have the buffet car where there's basically just a person behind a counter and they'll give you a sandwich
Yeah.
or a coffee. That's the most they can cook. But a dining car is separate, where you have actual tables, usually with starched white linen tablecloths and
I'm
waiters coming
imagining
around.
like the Orient Express.
Exactly. So the Intercity 125 had a dining car, and apparently the first class menu included kippers for breakfast, asparagus soup and gammon steak with glazed peach, and golden fried chip potatoes. Children under 13 paid half price, and as the menu said, diners are requested to refrain from smoking immediately prior to and during the course of the meal, which just tells you what a time it was. People
Yeah,
were actually
amazing.
smoking. And Prue Leith, actually, of Great British Bake Off fame, designed some of the menus in the 1930s.
Yes.
And then comes the Thatcherism of the 80s and the sort of championing of the free market. And so inevitably the railways get privatised a bit later, 1994. And basically now sandwiches get a bit of a flashy makeover. It also coincides with, as we mentioned in the sandwich episode, M&S and the other supermarkets following suit. So the sort of death of the British Rail disappointing sandwich comes in the 1990s, but it does still linger and is often used as a sort of a euphemism. Like I remember an article from 2009 where people were talking about how Heathrow was becoming the British Rail sandwich of the airports. It was like, it's still kind of used to be something that's kind of, all right, if we have to, you know, like we've got to provide some sort of catering.
What's it? It's like malicious compliance.
Yeah, it's like a little bit, yeah.
That's such a good term. I've not heard
Anyway,
It's really how we operate this podcast.
around 2001, someone found a 30-year-old document So this is from 1971, instructing staff how to best make a sandwich on British rail trains.
I think I've seen this
Have you seen
because I
this?
went and got a behind-the-scenes tour of the National Railway Museum a
I'm
few
so
years ago in
jealous.
York. Yeah.
So basically, they were telling you to put more filling near the middle, where the slice happens,
Wait,
mostly
where
margarine.
the slice happens, so that you can.
Yeah.
So when it's sliced,
Yes.
the side that's presented to you looks really
So
thick.
this
Yeah,
is the
so
biggest
this is, like,
controversy, and this is what
empty,
I've done here, is you get your 2 slices of ham.
Hang on, I'm going to open
Yeah,
this,
yeah, you
this
should.
horrible sandwich.
You're welcome to eat them.
Oh, I'm okay, but thank you.
So particularly when making ham sandwiches,
What have you done?
you have your square of sandwich, which picture a top-down view, bird's eye view of your
Yeah.
slice of bread. It's been buttered, and then you put a slice of ham over it.
Yeah.
Okay. Where do you put your second slice of ham? What you do is you fold it in half, or thirds even, and then you put it across the diagonal, right?
So when you
And
look at
then
the
when
sandwich
you-
from the side, it looks like there's
Exactly.
4 slices of ham.
Looks like there's-
but that's
there's-
just one little bit of it.
It's so sneaky.
So sneaky. That's a bit like when you buy a pizza from the supermarket and it's got a little window
all
and
on
you're
one
like,
side.
it's covered in pepperoni and it's just a bit in the window.
It's just in the
Yeah.
window. Anyway,
Con.
so that was the biggest controversy when they found this document.
I'm going to rewrap this for recent.
Give it a wash.
I'm going to give
Send
it,
it through the
give it to
dishwasher.
another train passenger. I do agree. I think this should be maybe under a bell jar in an exhibit somewhere.
Even more
to
withered.
represent British culture.
It get
yeah.
even more British as it withers.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Of course, now the current government are slowly renationalising the railways. So I wonder if we'll see a return of the great
Makes
British
sandwiches
Ooh.
shit again.
Yeah, exactly.
What if you were doing a preleaf and designing the menus
yeah.
Ooh.
for these new sandwiches? What would they be?
What sandwiches they be? Starmer ham, I call it, in honour of our departed Prime Minister. They should name them after Prime Ministers who've all resigned.
Liz
Yeah.
Truss is just lettuce. So that is the summary of British sandwiches and British train catering from the 20th
Tragic.
century.
Yeah.
Pretty tragic. But if we go around the world, in Greece, they have an equivalent phrase, which is crayfish coffee. Because they have so many ferries, Greece,
Yeah.
because there's so many islands. Often the service is a bit rubbish, and if you get a coffee, it's the worst coffee you can get in
bad
Greece.
coffee on the
So
ferries.
it basically means bad coffee, and for some reason they've gone for crayfish. Maybe the implication is like you've sort of mixed it with a
In with
crayfish
the-
because it's all
yeah.
salty and
Yeah, or
horrible.
maybe it's a
but-
pun in Greek or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe, yeah.
Well, it's good to know we can connect with Greeks over that
Yeah,
then, if I ever
exactly.
could go abroad.
Any Greek listeners, please?
Yeah, right in. Let us
Yeah.
know. Currently, if you go to Japan, you can find what is the highly collectible ekiben.
Oh, I've heard of
You've been to
these.
Japan?
What's an
and-
ekiben?
No, you've just heard of them. So it comes from the
It's
word.
a portmanteau, isn't it?
Yeah, eki means railway station, and ben comes from bento. So if you're familiar with Japanese food, you get the bento lunchboxes, which are
Oh, we did,
basically
yeah.
compartmentalized.
Yeah.
And they started in the late 19th century as train travel spread around Japan. And until the 1960s, peddlers would actually sort of walk the platforms. So your train would stop at the platform, you'd open a window, and someone would be like trying to sell you some food.
Kind of like a drive-through then.
Yeah.
Except that the
So
train
true.
is driving through.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is how they've basically marketed it, because they're hyper localized to the specialities of the area you're going through. So it's a bit like if you went
so it's like getting a
through-
cultural taste.
Yeah,
of-
if you went through like Leeds and they served you Yorkshire puddings, and then you got to Scotland and they started serving you haggis. But
I love that.
basically,
That's such a
there's-
great
I know,
way.
and they're
It's
so
like exactly the same as that train with all of the different countries. on it.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Kind
yeah.
of
Except
opposite.
like you're just within. So I think it's to promote intra-Japanese tourism, because you go through the beef area and you can get an ekiben, which is in the shape of a cow's head, and then you open it up and there's this beautifully arranged like sushi and like rice, and actually the cow one self-heats. When you pull a string, it self-heats. Have
God,
you had
Japan's
those-
just like
I know,
light years
I
ahead
know.
of us. aren't they?
They're living in the year 3000. And they're rabbit-shaped ones, train-shaped ones, so it looks like the train you're actually sitting in.
Sick.
They're like nice lunchboxes,
Yeah.
They're
I guess.
just
Like
nice.
big biscuit tins.
And if you buy one in Japan en route, they're between £5 and £7, which actually sounds like a
Really
I can't wait.
good.
I'm hoping to go to Japan next year.
Can you please bring back some
Of
ekiben
course.
boxes?
This will be Ekiben Envy from that point on. We do have in the UK, that's something I am quite proud of from British trains, is the drinking culture.
Yes, train pints.
I mean, it is banned on like the London Underground
TfL,
and some
yes, Transport
local
for London
networks.
don't let you do it.
But like around the train network in the UK,
most
you
of them
can,
don't.
and they sell alcohol. And
Yeah.
I think part of the reason is because we have a very old train network,
Oh, yeah.
and the trains largely terminate in the centre of where they're going to, in the
That's
city centre.
true.
So people aren't getting in cars and driving on; they
Yes.
walk to and from.
Oh, I see.
On TfL banning drinking, the day before the ban came in,
Oh, there was a massive
there was
party.
a big party.
Yeah.
Everyone was invited to
I
go and
remember
drink,
that.
and it was on the Circle line, so it never ended. So the train just went round and round and round, and people just got steadily more and more drunk, and then
That's
obviously
great.
got off when they wanted.
Okay, time to take to the high seas.
Oh, set sail.
Kevin.
Our third lunchbox, which is from Manu.
Today, I have brought a piece of bamboo and a bowl of water, some dirt, and the urine of a young boy. This is the third time I have brought urine onto this.
Insane.
We set the boss so low,
know.
and you miss it
Getting
every
lower
time.
and lower.
Yeah.
So these are 3 old Chinese cures for seasickness.
Okay.
Because today I wanted to talk about the perils of cooking and eating at sea. So we've been traveling at sea for at least 10,000 years, a really, really long time. The world's oldest boat is called the Pesce canoe, which was found in a bog in the Netherlands. It's wooden, but because of the bog, it was really, really well preserved. But there are some historians that think we might have been traveling for at least 50,000 years, and some think we've been traveling even before we were human. So like 30 to 50,000 years of
The word
sea
"we"
travel.
is doing a lot of heavy work
I
then.
mean,
if it-
like human-y looking things.
So if you get
Humanoids.
off a Ryanair flight, you don't feel human by the end of it. So.
So basically, the reason we get seasick is because there's a system in our inner ear which measures our movement and compares it to our surroundings. And if there's a mismatch between what we can see and what we can feel, it tends to make us feel quite sick.
It's kind of travel sickness generally, right? Is it the same principle for
Exactly,
being on a
travel
coach?
sickness. And lots of different things can cause it. It's not just travel. So if you're looking into a microscope for too long, you can get travel sick.
No way.
If you're
This is scientists just throwing up on their bedroom.
like legit, it's just a thing. If you're returning from a long time at sea, you can get travel sickness being on land.
Oh,
Land
because
sickness.
your
yeah.
body's, it's called mal débarquement syndrome.
You got your sea legs, but the other
Exactly,
way
so you
around.
get land.
I think that's a bit performative. Oh, I've been away for so long. I can't even remember what it's like to stand on land. Oh, like when astronauts come back from Earth and they're like, "Oh, I'm collapsing. Gravity." I'm like,
Apparently
"Get
they
out."
like hold spoons and drop them.
It's,
and they
it's
find
such
this
nonsense.
so
I just
fun.
don't believe it. I
I've
don't
seen
believe
that.
it.
I've
They
seen
they
that.
do it on videos all the time.
And
I'm
it's
like,
debunked.
yeah.
I'm sure it's. I think it's staged.
I think they're just there to just-
Fine,
yeah.
fine. We know a lot about how it works.
Okay.
How to cure it, a bit trickier. So there have been lots of mad historical cures, but this trio from an old Chinese medical text that was written in the 17th or 18th century is for sure my favourite. So it recommends drinking the urine of young boys. This has a wondrous effect.
Comes up way too often in history. They're obsessed with young boy urine.
Or you can collect water drops that have come from a long bamboo stick into a bowl, and then you boil that water and you drink it. That's also very effective, apparently. And then the final one, which is to take some earth or dirt from the middle of your kitchen and then hide it under your hair.
Okay.
And you can't tell anyone about it because otherwise it won't work. But apparently that is that's supposed to help with the
Wow.
seasickness as
And-
well. The reason I'm talking about it is obviously it's a hazard for anyone who's traveling at sea or in
Yeah.
a car looking at your phone. But it's a really specific occupational hazard for boat chefs, people that cook on boats.
Because they won't have windows, I guess.
No, I know. And you've got all of this movement. So getting used to that motion and the seasickness is a really big part of being able to do your job. But I love that the waves can get so intense that the kitchen has to adapt as well. All of the walls are padded so that if you fall backwards,
Yeah.
you don't smack your head on the ceiling. I mean, you do, but you won't die. And the best thing is the hob, the whole cooker, is on a gimbal. So the boat's going crazy.
Genius.
That's
but
so
this,
cool.
This pot of soup is completely level.
Is there footage?
Yes, really, really cool kitchens and equipment that's all adapted to cooking at sea.
That's so cool.
I'd say the one thing that you cannot prepare for is rich people.
Uh-oh.
I have watched so many videos of private yacht chefs for this research.
It's called Below Deck. I mean, it's one of the best TV series in the world.
It's incredible. So I actually tried to speak to a yacht chef for this episode. I'm friends of one, and she was too busy to talk to me.
No.
She was
Really?
like, I'm so sorry. I'm cooking this back to back to back for like 3 days.
Live
I
in the
have
sloshing kitchen,
Yeah.
just
no,
like,
no time. There is a yacht chef called Nina Wilson, who's Australian. She's a private yacht chef, and she posts loads of really good YouTube videos. And she explains what it's like to cook on a boat for this kind of client. So she works on chartered yachts, and she's saying it's amazing because there's no budget. People will just give you all of their money to cook whatever you want, and you have
Wow.
incredible creative freedom.
Oh, so there's a limited budget. Sorry. I
Yeah.
thought you meant no budget.
zero.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
There's like unlimited. You can basically
It's a big
make
difference.
big
Yeah.
difference. Whatever you want. You need to have incredible organizational skills because obviously you're away for like days or weeks at a
Yeah,
time.
you have to
that's
everything in
true.
advance.
Everything needs to be prepped in advance. You also need to be prepared to wake up at like the middle of the night and make whatever they want.
Yeah.
So she's telling stories of people who'd wake her up at like 2 a.m. and ask for like livers and grits and all of this really specific food, and she had to make it.
Wow.
And it's not just the food. So apparently the service like requests to the waiters and waitresses can get really weirdly specific. And the vibe is you cannot say no unless it's like illegal or harmful or sexual. So there was a story told by someone who worked on these private yachts. One of the guests asked that she watched him eat for the entire duration of the trip. So every time he ate anything, she would have to be there.
I'd say that's sexual.
But she did it.
Wow.
And that's the kind of service you get on a chartered yacht.
Maybe we're allowed to do this on planes and we just haven't tried it yet. I'm going to try next
this
time.
one
me.
clever
I want the
loophole.
pilot to watch me. Okay, that's it for this week's edition of Lunchbox MV.
You can follow our socials for foodie facts and podcast updates. We are on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Lunchbox MV Pod.
You can also get in touch and send us your facts, recipes, questions, or suggestions for future topics by emailing us at lunchbox@qi.com.
And we will see you next week. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Lunchbox MV was hosted by Jack Chambers, Manu Henriot, and produced by me, Alex Bell. This has been a quite interesting podcast.